Okay. Hi, guys. It's me, Sarah Elise from Toronto, Ontario. I'm an astrologer, and I am going to send this video out to my newsletter community today. It is June the 16th, 2019, and today is the full moon in Sagittarius. So I'm going to try something a little novel for me today. Instead of being the double Gemini that I am, I actually thought I might read notes instead of ad-libbing and riffing. But it's only because I have a lot of information I want to convey today. So it's been a pretty intense month for a lot of us, and I think things are really heating up with the Pluto-Saturn alignment. If you're interested in following my thoughts on that, that was my last newsletter and my last video about a month ago. You can find that on my website at saraheliseastrology.com or on my YouTube channel. Today's alignment is a little bit different. I feel as though we're getting a little bit of a repose today. There's a little bit of an opportunity or a window of opportunity for us to see something at a slightly elevated, in a slightly elevated way. So I wanted to try and talk about what's going on socially and collectively in a bit of a different context. And try and frame it according to a different construct, with different words. So, what I feel like has been going on in the last session, in the last section of time, is that we've been really facing up against the constructs that we've built, the social constructs that we've built, and we're starting to see the cracks in the wall. Right? We're starting to realize that there's something seriously wrong with the way we're living on planet Earth. There's something extremely unsustainable in our environment, in our social structures, in our way of life, in our beliefs, in our government, in our consumer behavior. All of it is falling apart. It's falling apart. And similarly, on a personal level, our own structures are falling apart. So if you notice the stuff that's been happening in your life over the last few months, you may have been coming up against feelings of being very powerless, or feelings of not being able to control things the way that you once did, or feeling sort of very humbled by life, or feeling scared that you're not safe and that things aren't going to hold you in the same way that they used to. Now, what's happening is the patriarchy is dissolving. So it's totally okay, and we're all going to make it. We're going to make it. We're going to go through. But what we're starting to realize is that the cave we've been living in is false. So the reality we've been living in is no longer going to support us. It's not regenerating itself anymore. It's done. It's old news. We have to put it aside. And I love how the conservatives are just holding on. You know, they're just like, oh God, we can't let go. We have to keep things the way they've been. And so we have a lot, like the rise of the conservative governments and you know, the zealots and people coming forward and trying to deny what's happening on a planetary level and deny what's happening on a social level, and that's okay. That's totally natural. As the wave moves forward, we have lots of people trying to pull back because we don't want things to change, right? We get scared, but things are changing. Now, most of us live our lives sort of in a cave. I love the allegory of the cave from Socrates. Socrates described consciousness, or Plato described consciousness as being like sort of twofold. There was this part of us that thinks we're experiencing reality, but what we're actually experiencing is we're experiencing the realm of the senses. It ruled by our lower nature. So we're experiencing our personal subjective nature, and we're inside of this cave, this dark cave, and all we can see are shadows up against the wall, and the shadows are reflecting back to us ourselves, but we think they're real. They're not. It's just us having a relationship with ourselves and spooking ourselves out about it. Now, when we're associated with this lower part of us, and when we're living from it, we're essentially in the underworld. We're essentially in the lower self. We're asleep. We're living in a hell of our own creation. We're trapped by our psyche. We're trapped by our drama trauma. We're trapped by our own self-importance, our need to be right, our need to achieve. And we're trapped by the lies that we've inherited by our society and our family and our upbringing. And it's not our fault, but it is a hall of mirrors. It's not, we see ourselves reflected back at ourselves from all around us, and without realizing that we're living inside of a dream. We're living inside of an illusion. So we're living in this cave. And the illusion is that everything is about us, that everything is, we're very self-centered and we're very subjective. And it's all about, how do I survive? What do I want? How do I fulfill my desires? How do I get what I need? Or I'm a victim and I can't have what I want and I can't have what I need. And all of this, all of the drama trauma. So it's all about the lack and the shame and the lower emotional constructs, the pride and the anger and all of that stuff is very lower self stuff. So when we're down in that stuff, we don't know that there's something else for us. We don't know. We really believe it's true. And when we look out into the world today and that's all we see, we think that's true. But it's, what if there was something else? Like what if there was something actually, something different, something more that we could find, or a different state of consciousness that we could elevate to. Now, climbing up out of the cave was sort of the point of life, according to Plato and according to Socrates, thousands of years ago. Coming up out of the cave was also the message that the Christ brought when he came to earth. He brought the message that by lifting into our hearts and lifting into our higher self and our intuition and our higher mind, we can also become illuminated. We can ascend out of the cave or the darkness of our lower self. We can illuminate ourselves. We can rise up in consciousness and become Christed. That it's within the capacity of all of us to elevate to a higher state of being. And when we do that, our everything changes. So our emotional quality changes, the way we see life changes. Plato called it like entering the world of the realm of form. So it was fascinating. He described archetype. He described the realm of archetype, in that there's this place where you can get that, where, you know, the experience of life becomes something more elevated and pure and pristine. So beauty becomes an actual form. There's a form of goodness, and there's a form of wisdom, and there's a form of justice. And these are elevated forms, elevated archetypes that we can lift into and live from. They're not personal. Archetypes are not personal. Higher consciousness is not personal. It's impersonal. It's collective. It's like when you elevate above the level of the lower self and your heart is open, you start to be able to live according to the laws of the universe, the laws of higher, the laws of goodness, and the laws of truth, and the laws of wisdom, and the laws of love. And that's the purpose of our life, really. It's the purpose of our existence as a human being. The fourth chakra rules the human kingdom. If we can't move into our heart, if we can't get into the chakra of the human kingdom, we stay in the animal kingdom. We stay in the lower self. And there's nothing wrong with being there. Like, most of us are there, and I've been there. And I also know that when I learned how to come into my heart, I realized that there was like an entirely different level of consciousness that was available to me. And it was much preferable to the drama, trauma, and the shame, and the cycling of personal, subjective, emotional, contractive hell that I'd been living in for years and years and years. Not that it's that bad. There's lots of joy and there's lots of fun, and ooh, you get that brand new car and it sure is hot, or oh, you get those, you work out, you get those muscles, and oh, you look really good. Like there's lots of satisfaction in the lower self as well, but there's a lot of it's very self-fulfilling, and it perpetuates a lot of the problems that we see these days, right? It perpetuates greed, it perpetuates excess, it perpetuates like a constant sense of lack, that we need more and more and more and more and more, because we're not calm, and we're not centered, and we're not still, and we're not poised, and we're not in alignment. So what's happening right now in our society, I mean, like, we're looking around the cave that we're standing in, and we're realizing that something is seriously wrong here. Like, oh my God, there's water in this cave, and it's kind of rising up to my ankles. Oh my God, this cave is getting really, really hot. What am I? It's very uncomfortable. You know, it's not safe for me here anymore. It's not safe for me in this cave anymore. And when reality starts to fall apart, you know, with Pluto and Saturn creating a lot of tension, showing us where the cracks are in the reality that we've been living inside of, showing us how unhealthy we are and how unhealthy our lifestyles are, and showing us that our beliefs and our choices and our hopes and our fears, all of it, that there are problems there, and it's dissolving, and that we have to work hard to restructure it, to rebuild it. So a lot of us are freaking out and are feeling very, very anxious, right? And very, very scared. And we're bumping up against all the ways that we've been addicted and attached to this cave. And we don't know what to do. I mean, where do we go? Like, who knows, right? How do we fix it? How do we escape? Some people are just going to sleep, and some people are trying really hard to fight. And you know, at the end of the day, what is there? Like, what's the truth? And, you know, here, I just want to affirm that we're all in this mess together. So it's like we're collectively organizing our psyche to figure this out, so that we can all come at these problems from a different place. Because I love my teacher Alan Oken. He always says this again and again and again, that you cannot, and I believe Einstein said this as well. I mean, this is not just Alan Oken, but this is an energetic principle. You can't solve a problem at the same level that the problem is happening on energetically. You just can't. So when you're sitting at the problem level, when you're sitting here in the cave and you're witnessing the horror, you're witnessing the devastation, you're witnessing the suffering, you're bouncing around back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you can't resolve it. The only thing you can do at that level is join in the conflict. It's like when you have two sides fighting for something. There's really no resolution point. Each side wants what it wants, and that's it. The only way to come to the solution is to elevate above the problem and to balance out the two polarities. And that's what we're talking about today, because Sagittarius, which our full moon is in right now, as we speak, actually, the full moon is in Sagittarius, about 23 degrees Sagittarius. And in fact, we're coming into the full moon probably in the next hour. When we elevate up out of the duality, or out of the cave, or out of the illusion of conflict, and we come into our third eye, or we come into the apex of the triangle, the top of the triangle, it gives us a repose. It allows us to see from on high. It allows us to look down at the problem and see it from a different perspective. It gives us the illuminated viewpoint that we require to kind of like become the Godhead, to see the solutions in a different way. It enables us to resolve the conflict. So, you know, doctors have been mapping out our bodies for thousands of years, and Eastern medicine has been mapping out our bodies for thousands of years. And so, you know, there's a gland in our brain called the pineal gland, and it is in the center. It's a P-shaped gland. It turns on. It's very active when you're born, and it's very active when you die. They say that it regulates our sexual energy as well, so it's really tied into our primal Kundalini energy. And according to Eastern mystic traditions, and according to Buddhism and Taoism and Hinduism, the pineal gland is what we seek to open when we do meditation. So meditation, the entire point of meditation, is to lift up out of the lower self, out of the cave, out of the subjective reality, to lift into our heart. And when we lift into our heart, we are able to activate the pineal gland. And the pineal gland activates our intuition. It opens up our higher mind. It opens up the higher faculties that we all have access to. And Sagittarius is the archetype that rules the pineal gland, or rules the third eye. They call it the third eye. And when the third eye opens, you no longer see out of two eyes. You no longer see the duality. You see the center. You are able to focus. Okay, so it's a mystical point, and it is a gate to wisdom, and it is a gate to to understanding consciousness. And it is a gate to becoming what we really are, truly. Like, it is a gate to becoming our true selves, which is, we're not here to be animals. We're here to be in the animal. We're here to experience the body. We're here to experience what it is to be alive on the planet Earth. We're here to feel our feelings. We're here to be in the sensuality of life. But we're also here to be more than that. We're here to be the balance between the upper and the lower. We're here, and in order to do that, we have to move into the upper. We have to activate our higher faculties. We have to activate our higher minds. So there's no getting away from that. There's no escaping that. If does that make sense to you guys? I'm never quite sure how far to go with these newsletters, but I'm just calling it out like it is. So Sagittarius is the archetype that does this. And you know, in astrology, when we learn astrology, we say Sagittarius rules the truth. Sagittarius is the archer. Like, Sagittarius is the dude on a horse. He's half horse and half man. What does that mean, actually? What does it mean to be half horse and half man? And what is the arrow? What is the bow and arrow? And what is it pointing toward? At a lower level, Sagittarius is animal. Like, he's animal instinct, and he's like running, and he's drinking, and he's fucking, and he's doing whatever he wants to do. He's just like, oh, I'm going to go over here on an adventure, and I'm going to go over here on an adventure. And he's like gluttonous, and he loves to party. He's loud, and he has a lot of fun. But as he becomes more refined, he realizes that, you know, that to control the animal, like to come truly into mastery of the animal, is the point. So that's step one. We master the animal. So we see the cave that we're living in, right? We see the cave and we say, okay, I am going to elevate to the level of reason. I'm going to elevate out of the emotional reactive. I'm going to take my subjective emotions. I'm going to apply maybe ethics, or I'm going to apply truth or integrity or something. My will will control my lower nature. And then I will ride off on my horse and seek my fortune. But at some point, the Sagittarius archetype looks even higher than that. And the Sagittarius archetype at that point becomes the one-pointed focus on the divine. And that's the opening of the third eye. Because when you open your third eye, what happens is the animal nature just falls into line. There is no need to focus on it. It is simply a cohesive whole. When we open the third eye, when we come up into that space, into that part of our consciousness, the rest of it is just perfect. There's no need to tame it or control it, because we become embodied grace. And we become still, and we become poised, and we become calm, and we become focused, and we become disciplined. There's an enormous amount of focus in Sagittarius. True Sagittarius is all about focus and discipline. And the focus and discipline that it takes, like you need to master your mind in Sagittarius, right? In Gemini is the opposite of Sagittarius. They're both about the mind, and they're both about like the ability to mutably understand reality through mental consciousness. And Gemini is just as mystical as Sagittarius. Gemini is the connector point between the higher and the lower self. So Gemini is the articulation between the higher and the lower. Gemini can go up here, and it can come down here, and it can bounce back and forth. It's Castor and Pollux. It goes from Hades to Olympus. And it's like and it builds the bridge in between the two. But Sagittarius is when we say, I will align with Olympus, with the Olympians. I will align with God. And this is my purpose, and this is my quest. It's like the search for the Holy Grail. And when you become that one-pointed and focused, the third eye opens, and the rest of it coheses, and you become very much in alignment. And then you can move forward into Capricorn, and you can get your work, and you can go out into life, and you can build the society anew, right? Build it from a place of higher truth and higher wisdom. So that's kind of like the archetypal ideal that we're all sort of aiming for. Why am I talking about all this? Well, the reason is because, I think on a collective level, we're really like sitting in a hot cave, drowning, and we need to have a little bit of hope. We need to have a little bit of elevation. Like, it's been so hard for a few months, right? Like we're fighting, and we're in the muck of this for a while now. We've got a massive month ahead of us, like the Cancer month, because this is the Cancer. Anyway, I'll talk about this next time, but we're going to have a massive solar eclipse on July 3rd. I believe it's at 10 degrees Cancer. Oh, I mean, just get ready, okay? Like if your heart is starting to crack open, and it should be starting to crack open the last week or so. I mean, we've had a lot of Cancer energy. We have Mars conjunct Mercury conjunct North Node in Cancer. We have Pluto and Saturn conjunct South Node in Capricorn, all opposing, right? So we are in this tension point of like, I can't do it anymore. I just can't do it. I can't do it. I have to soften. I have to soften. I have to let go. I have to fight for what's good. I have to fight for what's right. I mean, there's tears streaming down our collective eyes. We're being humbled. Like we need to feel now. We need to feel now. And we're about to kind of cross into this very emotional summer, very emotional. So let's go. But today, the reason why I'm talking about this repose, this elevation to a higher point, to an ability to see, is because we have an opportunity or a window or a gateway right now to take a second and stop and assess like what our vision is. Like, what is the higher truth that we're aligning to? What is the focus of our next 6 to 12 months? What is the vision that is guiding us? What is the truth that we are being called to embody, or being called to focus on, being called to discipline ourselves toward? And this is the full moon is always about celebration and illumination. It's like the fullness of the cycle. So we really get to like just feel it and hold it and breathe it in and celebrate it and just know it as true. And so today it's a great time to kind of spend a moment or two just centering yourself and setting your sights higher, thinking about your next year, thinking about your goals, thinking about your plans, and being sure that they're aligned with your higher truth, with your higher good, with your higher integrity. And take a breath of fresh air while you're up there, because this next month is going to be hot, trust me. So just take a moment, take the repose, see the clear air, try and get up above the fray, try and pull yourself up out of the cave and know that there is somewhere to go. Like we're going to get out of this fucking cave. Like we can't stay here. And just take a second and celebrate and vision your life for the next 6 to 12 months. Like where do you want to be? What do you want to contribute? What do you want to become? What are your goals? This is a perfect day to kind of ask those questions, because it's just been a lot, and it's going to continue to be a lot. And I'm so excited to be walking through this. It's such a fascinating time. As awful as it is every day to see the news, it's a fascinating time where a lot of us are going to come online and start to really change things. So anyway, that's my take on it. Another thing that I realized in this last week was something around the masculine, feminine, kind of as a byline to my last video. If those of you who have been following the last video when I was talking about the patriarchy and the collapse of the patriarchy, I'm starting to feel into what the Cancer is now, because for the longest time I couldn't feel it. I couldn't track it. I'm starting to get it. With Mars in Cancer, Mercury in Cancer, I'm starting to understand that what we're all needing to go into in the next cycle and in this summer is the healing of the masculine. So it's not about blaming the masculine. It's not about the feminine bludgeoning the masculine, or the feminine being all, me. It's about, like, we really need to heal the masculine. We really need to come together and heal our men and heal the masculine within us and take responsibility for it, because it's been damaged. It's been damaged just as much as the feminine has been damaged. And this summer is going to be a really interesting one for healing the masculine. So ponder on that. We'll talk about it a little bit more next time. I hope this was okay. I love it when you reach out, so please do so, okay? Let me know how this landed. Bye.